Welcome back to Bogosity, where we debunk the myths and get to the truth. The Bogosity we're looking at today is very important. Ordinarily, we just look at things that are stupid, but that you can easily avoid. Not today. Today, we'll be looking at Bogosity that threatens all of us, no matter how educated we are, no matter how much we try to avoid it. Because the war on drugs isn't just Bogosity, it's Bogosity that kills. Bogosity. If you're smart enough to watch this show, then you're probably smart enough to know that doing drugs is stupid. They can mess you up. They can mess up your life. But if you want to avoid that, all you have to do is just stop taking the drugs. But that's just not good enough for our government. They insist that if it's bad, they have to criminalize it. To make us all safer, of course. The problem is, it doesn't make us safer. The war on drugs threatens us all. A few years ago, citizens of Denver, Colorado voted to legalize marijuana. That didn't sit well with the DEA. Here's DEA agent Eric Martinson and his stupid opinion.
Illicit drugs are not dangerous because they're illegal. They're illegal because they're dangerous.
Bogus!
Marijuana, just like ecstasy, just like heroin, is a Schedule I controlled substance. Schedule I means there's a high potential for abuse and no approved medical uses.
Hey, Martinson, you think the reason why there might be no approved medical uses would be because you won't let them do the studies to find out? Fortunately, other countries are saner than ours, and they have found out that marijuana has many medical uses. In fact, a Spanish study published in the Journal of Neuroscience found that marijuana actually protects the brain from the onset of Alzheimer's. Another Spanish study found that marijuana can actually reverse the growth of cancerous cells. And that's not to mention all of its other medical uses for people fighting cancer, AIDS, multiple sclerosis, and other ailments. But he also said it was dangerous. So how dangerous is it, really?
Here's Lieutenant Jack Cole, formerly of the New Jersey State Police.
When we started this war, which was implemented to start in 1970, just before that, according to DEA, there was 4 million people in this country who had used an illegal drug. By the year 2001, again according to DEA, there were 110 million people in this country that's used an illegal drug. That's 27 times worse problem after the war began.
Yikes! All those people started using drugs after the war on drugs began? This guy was a law enforcement officer. He's seen firsthand the damage caused by drugs and the damage caused by the war on drugs. He and 5,000 other law enforcement officers, lawyers, judges, and even prosecutors have joined the organization Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, or LEAP. With all of them saying we should legalize drugs, it sounds to me like the war on drugs is the real danger. So, Martinson, where's the danger?
Just like when you're driving drunk, driving under drugs is going to inhibit your ability to drive a motor vehicle safely, and it'll cause just as many accidents as alcohol.
This guy either doesn't know what he's talking about, in which case, what's he doing on the DEA, or he's lying outright. Study after study shows that driving under the influence of marijuana isn't anywhere near as dangerous as driving drunk. In fact, people who are high on marijuana tend to be paranoid, they slow down and drive more carefully, and this offsets the detrimental effects of their impairment.
History shows us that when you legalize a drug, usage rates will go up and addiction rates. When you legalize them, people are more inclined to use drugs. And history definitively shows that in every case, drug use, and not just marijuana use, drug use amongst all categories has gone up.
Double bogus! Want to debunk this? Just look at alcohol prohibition. When prohibition was repealed, we didn't become a nation of alcoholics. But our boozing did become safer since we no longer had to deal with criminal gangs to get it.
Another member of LEAP is Peter Christ, police captain from Tonawanda, New York.
Prohibition. How many people got a picture of a big black car, Chicago, Al Capone, and a Thompson submachine gun in it? Anybody? How many other thought when you hear that word, that doesn't work? Isn't that what we learned in this country between 1920 and 1933? Prohibition doesn't work. That's why we ended it.
Sorry, but I just have to say this. Thank you, Christ! And look at this authentic period sign from the Prohibition era. Help the President with law enforcement. Repeal Prohibition. Prohibition didn't stop anything. All it did was take resources away from law enforcement, going after criminal gangs and drinkers who haven't hurt anyone, instead of going after rapists and murderers. Repealing Prohibition meant that we could enforce real crimes more efficiently. We also no longer had to worry about dying from drinking bathtub gin and all sorts of other dangerous drinks.
I was quite surprised to see how quickly they understood, after they're told the truth about the war on drugs, that it's not the drug pharmacology, but it's the drug prohibition that is causing the major amounts of problem to them. It's drug prohibition that causes all the violence to be out there. It's drug prohibition that causes the overdoses to exist. You remember the stories of bathtub gin under alcohol prohibition? You drink it, you go blind, drink it, you die. Had nothing to do with alcohol, though. Had everything to do with the fact that because that drug at that time was prohibited, there was no control or regulation over how it's produced. And that's exactly why people overdose today. They don't overdose because they shoot more and more dope in some crazy attempt to get higher and higher. They overdose because they don't know how much of that little package of powder they're buying is really the drug and how much is the cutting agent. Too much drug, they're dead, and there's no way to tell. Right. Under legalized regulation of drugs, that just would not occur.
You see, when you criminalize something, you remove all incentive to make it in safe doses where people know what they're getting. Criminalize ecstasy, and people who think they're taking ecstasy might be taking another, far more dangerous drug, one that kills them. Legalize a drug, and the drugs become safer. Drug criminalization doesn't mean you have fewer people on drugs. It just means the people who do take the drugs are at greater risk. Legalize drugs, and the people who do use are safer.